Picture the modern office kitchen. It's 10 a.m. The air hums with the low murmur of conversation and the hiss of the espresso machine. Over by the counter, a few Millennials and Gen X colleagues are laughing, sharing stories about their weekend, their conversation flowing as easily as the coffee they're pouring. It's a familiar scene of casual connection. But then you notice the corner booth. A Gen Z employee sits alone, headphones on, eyes locked on their phone. They're not unhappy necessarily, they're just separate in a world of their own. It's easy to look at this scene and jump to a conclusion, to reach for a familiar label. Gen Z is antisocial. They don't know how to talk to people. They'd rather be online. But that's the easy answer. And it's wrong. This isn't a story about personality, laziness, or a lack of desire. It's a story about a generation that entered the workforce with a skill set that was quietly, systemically left out of their education. So why can you talk online all day but find it hard to talk to your colleagues? The answer isn't about you. It's about the death of something much bigger. Stay with us on GENSHIFT as we uncover why Gen Z can't socialize at work and how learning one crucial skill can future-proof your career. 1. The Fading Training Grounds, a eulogy for American community. For most of human history, learning how to socialize wasn't a formal class you took. It was a skill you absorbed through osmosis, through thousands of small, repeated interactions in what sociologists call third places, environments outside of home and work. These were the training grounds, the social gyms where you built the muscle memory for human connection. Think about the pillars of American community for previous generations. The weekly church potluck, where you learn to make small talk with your friend's grandparents. The local bowling league or union hall, where conversations crossed class and age lines. The neighborhood block party, the volunteer fire department, the parent-teacher association meetings. These spaces weren't just for fun, they were critical social incubators. They provided a low-stakes environment to practice the art of casual, unstructured conversation. You learned how to listen, how to find common ground, how to disagree respectfully, and how to simply be around people different from yourself. This web of connections, what Harvard political scientist Robert Putnam famously termed social capital, was the invisible architecture holding society together. But over the last half-century, that architecture began to crumble, silently and then all at once. Data shows a precipitous decline in participation across almost every form of civic life. Since the 1970s, membership in fraternal organizations, unions, and even school parent groups has slumped. The percentage of Americans who consider community involvement to be very important has fallen to just 27%. Participation in youth clubs, a foundational training ground, dropped steadily between 1998 and 2020 across all income levels. And perhaps most profoundly, religious affiliation has faded. In the decade from 2010 to 2020 alone, the share of Americans identifying with a religion dropped by 13 percentage points, a decline driven almost entirely by younger generations turning away from institutions that once served as the bedrock of community life. This wasn't a conscious choice made by one generation. It was a systemic shift driven by economic pressures, suburban sprawl that designed connection out of our lives, and the technological transformation of leisure into a solitary activity. The result is that Gen Z didn't reject these communities. They inherited a world where the training grounds had already been abandoned, the social gyms closed down. They were handed a digital world of connection, but never given the blueprint for the analog one. 2. The social skill gap, why the office is a different game. As those traditional communities faded, one institution, almost by default, stepped in to fill the void: the workplace. For Millennials and Gen X, the office became the primary place they formed new friendships as adults. It was the last great third place, where social norms were learned through observation, where mentorship happened in spontaneous conversations by the coffee machine, and where you built relationships simply by sharing a physical space for 40 hours a week. Then the world changed. The rise of remote and hybrid work, accelerated by the pandemic, didn't just change where we work. It fundamentally broke the office's function as a community hub. For a generation that had already missed out on the traditional training grounds, this was a devastating blow. The final place for passive social learning was gone, and every interaction suddenly became intentional, scheduled, and filtered through a screen. The consequences are now starkly clear in the data. A staggering 77% of Gen Z employees report feeling lonely at work, a rate significantly higher than any other generation. They are also the most likely to want to return to the office precisely because they feel isolated at home. This isn't just a feeling, it's a reflection of a tangible skill gap. Having grown up communicating through text, where there's time to edit and craft the perfect response, many in Gen Z find the improvisational nature of face-to-face interaction deeply anxiety-inducing. Over 60% report significant anxiety in social situations, with workplace interactions being a primary trigger. This reveals a painful paradox. Gen Z craves connection at work more than their older colleagues, with 60% wishing they were closer to their coworkers, yet they struggle to build it. This isn't about being an introvert or an extrovert. It's about lacking what we'll call social fluency. Social fluency is the ability to proficiently navigate casual, unstructured social situations. It's the art of small talk, the skill of asking good questions, the confidence to join a conversation, and the emotional intelligence to read a room. For previous generations, this skill was a byproduct of their environment. For Gen Z, it's a skill that must be deliberately and consciously learned, like a new language. Without it, the modern workplace can feel like a foreign country where you don't understand the local customs, leaving you feeling isolated, anxious, and disconnected. 3. The cure. A new blueprint for workplace community. The diagnosis is clear, but the prognosis is hopeful. If the old community blueprint is gone, it's up to us to draw a new one. And if social fluency is a skill, it can be taught, practiced, and mastered. The solution is a two-part strategy, one for the individual and one for the organization that needs them to thrive. First, for every Gen Z professional feeling that anxiety, here is your toolkit. Start small. The goal is not to become the most popular person in the office overnight, it's to build one genuine connection. Begin by mastering the open-ended question. Instead of asking, "Did you have a good weekend?" which invites a one-word answer, try, "What was the highlight of your weekend?" This simple shift invites a story, not just a response. Second, practice active observation. Notice things. A book on a colleague's desk, a photo of their pet, a band on their t-shirt. A simple, "That's a cool poster. What's the story behind it?" shows you're present and interested. Third, seek common ground beyond your job titles. Use these small interactions to find shared interests in music, podcasts, or hobbies. This is the bridge that turns a colleague into a work friend. And finally, if your company has them, join an employee resource group or ERG. These are built-in communities that provide a safer, more structured environment to practice these skills. Now, for the companies and managers, the burden of rebuilding the community cannot fall on your youngest employees alone. You are the architects of the environment. And no, the answer is not a mandatory happy hour or another trust fall. The solution is intention. First, redesign your onboarding. Pair every new hire with a senior mentor for career guidance, but also with a peer buddy for social navigation, someone they can ask the stupid questions and grab lunch with. Second, create a sanctioned space for non-work connections. Dedicate the first 5 minutes of team meetings to a simple human check-in. Sponsor low-pressure, inclusive activities that don't revolve around alcohol, like a collaborative volunteer day, a local food tour, or even a workshop on a fun skill. Third, empower your ERGs. Give them budgets, executive sponsorship, and a real voice in the company. They are your most powerful organic engines of belonging. The future of work is clear. In the coming decade, social fluency will no longer be a soft skill, it will be a critical determinant of career success. The data already shows that jobs requiring high levels of social skills are growing the fastest. Those who deliberately build this skill will unlock mentorship opportunities, build powerful networks, and lead the next wave of innovation. Those who remain isolated risk professional stagnation. The choice is yours to make. Conclusion. The empty chair in the office kitchen isn't an indictment of a generation's character. It is a quiet testament to a larger societal shift, a symptom of a world that dismantled its communal training grounds and forgot to provide a new map. This isn't a critique of Gen Z, it's an explanation and a call to action. Building community in the workplace is no longer just a perk. It's a fundamental part of a healthy, fulfilling, and successful career. The great news is that the tools to rebuild it are within our grasp. Social fluency can be learned, and genuine connections can be forged one conversation at a time. What are your biggest challenges with socializing at work, or what tips have helped you connect? Share your story in the comments below. You are not alone in this. And if you're ready to master the human code for the modern world, make sure you subscribe to GENSHIFT.